Californians could soon be drinking water from the Pacific Ocean. A new company is actually testing deep sea desalination technology that can turn salt water into drinking water without the harmful effects to the environment of other systems. LA Times water reporter Ian James brought us the story. Ian, this is so exciting. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, tell us about this technology. What are we looking at? I know they're calling them water farms. What are they? How do they work?
Well, the idea that this company, Ocean Well, has been pioneering is to develop what they call a water farm that would be installed several miles off the coast in about 1,300 feet depth. And they would be anchored to the seafloor. There would be a number of these pods, and each one of them would be desalinating seawater, and it would be pumped back to shore through a pipeline.
Well, tell us more about this company and its founder. Are they doing this other places?
This is the first place it's being tried out in conjunction with Las Virgenes Municipal Water District. And it is a technology that the company and its executives and engineers say could go a long way, both in California and other parts of the world that are short on water.
Ocean desal has never played a prominent role in California's water future, and this technology allows us to look to the ocean as a place where we can get significant sources of supply with minimal, if any, environmental conflict.
And they hope also reduce the cost, but the viability of this project still needs to be tested to determine whether it pencils out.
And that is what they are embarking on right now. Let's talk about other desal plants because the technology has been out there. You sort of briefly mentioned it, but tell everybody how damaging desal plants can be to the environment.
Well, California does have some desalination plants in operation in Carlsbad, for instance, in San Diego County, as well as Catalina Island has a small desalination plant that provides a portion of the water there. So these plants are operating in places. Some of the concerns that have been raised about them, in addition to the costs, it's an energy intensive process when you have a coastal desalination plant. And it also, because it takes in large quantities of seawater, it needs to run that water through membranes and filters. And some sea life inevitably is killed in that process. Also, it produces very salty brine that needs to be discharged into the marine environment, and that has environmental effects on the ecosystem. The idea is that with these pods anchored on the seafloor in deep water, that the pressure of the water will actually be able to help drive the desalination process, reducing the costs, and that the tiny marine life will also be filtered out and dispersed back into the water. The company says it should virtually eliminate environmental harm as a result.
I'm guessing that means it has a lot of support from environmentalists, right? Well, who's for it and who's against it?
We haven't heard from all of those who may support it or be against it, but initially there are various environmental advocates who are critical of large desalination plants, but say this technology is intriguing because of the promise of reducing environmental impacts. And then the big question for water districts that are closely watching it is how much will it ultimately cost? And will it make sense for them to buy this water once it comes back to the shore in a pipeline and they pump it into their systems?
Well, yeah, all these other water agencies, they are watching closely because the clock is ticking. We have persistent drought. We are taking too much water from the Colorado River. We need this new technology. If this works, if they can pull this off, what does that mean? And where in California might we see these water farms off our shores?
Well, if it turns out to be viable, this could be a technology that could be installed in various spots along the California coast that are short of water and are looking to diversify. And as you say, the state has gone through various severe droughts, and the state has also projected looking into the future that because of the effects of climate change, that more severe droughts are coming and that the supply of water that's available from Northern California is likely to shrink by somewhere between 13 and 23% over the next 20 years. And so that's why water districts are looking to have new local supplies of water and to diversify where they're getting water from.
What's the next step? I know the company has said they hope that they can get these things online by 2028.
Well, the next step, now that this pod is being tested in the reservoir, once they finish with that, their plan is to do a test in the ocean and lower one of these pods hundreds of feet underwater from a boat and test it out there. And that will help determine both how well it works, how the maintenance may work over time, and also ultimately what the cost would be in terms of energy for pumping this water.
Ian James writes about water for the LA Times. Thank you, Ian.
Thanks for having me, Lisa.
Coming up, you've heard the saying, there's